Just say it, man. Don't make me ask 20 questions.
What is the point?
Get to the point.
Just say it already!
Welcome to the Podcram. Let's let Dan Martell remind us of the value of our time and how we can automate and delegate chores to buy it back on Modern Wisdom 831 with Chris Williamson.
I had my equivalent experience on that, just processing physical mail every Sunday, 4 hours. Go get the mail from the P.O. box and just sit there and process mail.
What was the business?
It was a software company that sold enterprise, and it was just like contracts, checks. Like this old school. This is 2004, 2005. And it was, I remember reaching out to the CEO because I just thought, I got to be doing this wrong. And he laughed. I said, who processes your mail? This guy ran like $100 million insurance company. And he says, well, my assistant. Well, how do you, what is that and how do you find them? I just thought like that's not something people that start companies should have in the early days. I had all these beliefs around it. But, it's funny because it's also the reason you're successful, because there's like a level of attention to detail that's required that creates a product. And then again, it's just at a certain point, maybe it would have been 6 months, not 4 years. Handing it off to somebody else could have been a better use of your time. Even energy. If you think about like just the amount of stuff people do they shouldn't be doing and how much headspace it takes or the energy, whereas they could be a lot more present with the people they're with or more creative. It robs, distractions rob a lot of people from bigger visions.
It's kind of embarrassing to realize, there's something called path dependency, which you might be familiar with.
Heard that one.
So path dependency is also called the Einstellung effect, and it explains why we kind of get locked into particular modes of working. So for instance, the QWERTY keyboard on laptops is a path dependency from the QWERTY keyboard on typewriters. Yeah, where the most common letters would be out on the little fingers and the letters weren't close together, so it wouldn't fire two at the same time. There are other layouts for keyboard.
Yeah, my software programming friends use different ones because they're more efficient. Some of them actually have like 4 directions. It's like a touch and it's a direction.
Oh, so when you hit it, you can...
Yeah, so it's like, I think there's only 10 buttons, but you push it in a direction.
Oh my God. So you're never moving your finger away.
No.
Each finger has a button.
Ergonomically, it's like 160 words a minute.
So you've got this path dependency, and it's basically, the entirety of the insight is the tools that got you here won't get you there. There's a lot, I think, that sort of correlates from your background to mine. I didn't grow up in a trailer park quite so much, but very much sort of super working class environment. The idea of leverage, the idea of outsourcing, really was not a skill that was instilled into you from childhood. It's a type of physics that you have to learn when you're 28 and fold this into your worldview with your Puritan work ethic guilt that you have over getting somebody else to do something that you could do.
Because you've been told the opposite your whole life. I mean, I don't know about you, but like I was told by my dad or the people around me, like, if you want done something right,
do it yourself. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
And, just like all these money beliefs or outsourcing beliefs, or you just hear it all the time. Who does the real work? And like, it's frowned upon to be somebody that doesn't do certain things. Like you should be somebody that knows how to fix your car and take care of your stuff. It's like, till you just have so much you're trying to do that it's just physically impossible. I mean, like, I don't know. I just, luckily, 28, 30 years old, I realized that there's no way I can do what I want to do and possibly do it all. And that was like, so I'm sure Naval Ravikant and his stuff. That was like when I understood the kind of the high level concept of leverage. Like that was like, I've always been like, I was read 4-hour work week when it came out, and that's what really inspired me to stop doing the mail. Right. I was like, okay, this is,
thanks, Tim.
That, email, the autoresponder messages, all that crazy stuff. I mean, I picked some stuff up, left the rest. But Naval taught me, I moved to Silicon Valley and started building tech companies there. It was just the idea of, if you think about it, there's only 4 ways to get leverage. There's the code side. So software automation, I know that world. That's my world. So, to the degree that you can automate a task that doesn't require any thinking, you never have to make that decision again. I mean, that spoke to me because of my software background. Like I wrote code. That's the essence of it. Content. So like you've got documents, SOPs, training, this like videos like this. So that was a kind of an interesting concept because I never really thought about it. But obviously an SOP is the equivalent of writing code, but for a manual task checklist. Then there was capital, which is the the Valley's built on capital, leverage, raise a bunch of money, try to deploy it. And you're seeing even with your product, like it takes money to make money for certain categories that have, raw materials that have to be turned into finished goods. So like, then the last one was collaboration, which really took me a while to figure out. It's like, how do I work with other people? Like I just had a hard time letting go. I would get anxious. I would get nervous. I'd be worried this person's going to cost me my money. And sometimes it did. Like there was situations where like I was on the hook for somebody else's behavior. So those 4 paths of leverage occurred to me that if I could study them, work at them, like those were like the 4 master skills, I call it. Like if I just get really good at these 4 things, then to the degree I'm good at those, then really I shouldn't have any constraints in anything I want to create. And that was like probably one of the best things I ever learned from Naval amongst many other things, but it was huge.
Take me through the buyback principle, how this works for someone that's never been introduced to it.
Yeah. So the concept that I learned that helped me get to this place is calendar over capacity. So, and it sounds so subtle, but the mistake to make is to add people to your life that can do what you already do, because then it costs money and you didn't actually get an ROI. So I always look at my calendar. I don't add capacity. So like if I was a logo designer and I was overwhelmed, most of them would go hire another logo designer. But what you should do is figure out the other stuff that isn't logo designing, have somebody take that off your plate so that you could do logo design, because that's what you get paid the most money. The buyback principle states you don't hire people to grow your business. You grow your business by buying back your time. Because if I buy back my time, then I can go do the thing that is the Achilles heel or the friction point or the bottleneck of why I'm not growing. And if you do that, that's where you can build a business you don't grow to hate, because as you grow, you have more freedom. And it's kind of bananas because when people see it, and it doesn't even take money. So like, how do I get somebody else to help me with something? It could be an intern, right? It could be a friend. You can literally ask friends. Like you said, you could ask one of the 400 students. And the whole premise is look at your calendar for the past 2 weeks and just ask yourself, where am I been doing tasks that are not things I enjoy doing? Okay. I call them the energy suckers, that I could have paid somebody at least a quarter of what my hour's worth. Okay. So a quarter or less to do. And the reality is if you're doing anything on that list, you're working against your dreams. Like this is mathematical equations. If value creation in the world is what value create within a unit of time, and let's call it an hour, then your ability to create value in that hour is the most important thing. So you should not be doing anything for $8 an hour, setting up the design thing, when closing another or getting another contract to go promote another show could bring you on average $100 an hour for your effort. Like it's just bad math. And that's why like my background in software really kind of made me think about like, what's the first principles to leverage, right? All those 4 master skills. Okay, cool. But how do I translate that into some kind of equation that I can kind of run through this loop? So the buyback loop, I run through it all the time.
What is the loop?
The loop is as soon as you feel pain. Okay. So I always say that most entrepreneurs hit a place where they hit a pain line. Okay. Where their opportunity, they could say yes, but saying yes would create chaos in their calendar. And guys like us, that's every day. We are not at the mercy of not enough opportunity. Some people are, that's not us. And what you want to do is that when you accidentally get to a place where you have that pain, then you have to go to the audit. So it's audit, transfer, fill. So audit stands for looking at my calendar 2-week window and literally printing it off. If you're diligent in putting stuff in your calendar, it's a lot easier. But if you're not, that's cool. And you just highlight in red things that take your energy. And $, 1 to 4. $1 sign is very inexpensive. $4 sign is saying paying somebody to do what you do. And then you take all the reds and all the $1 sign stuff and you put them in a bucket. And that is the only person you should hire next. And if you don't, you're literally making it hard on yourself. So I always, when people see me scale companies fast, they go, how did you do that? Well, I follow that principle. Now, as you get bigger, now all of a sudden you're outsourcing more complex skills. But that is actually that's the skill to learn. How do you hire a creative director? How do you hire a general manager? How do you hire a VP of sales? Like these are, it's easy to hire an administrative assistant. And even some people have a hard time with that one. Mm-hmm. But like learning how to build the machine that runs the machine is what I call it. And that is where, some people say work on the business versus in the business. I always use my calendar because I want to literally audit, then transfer. So the way I transfer is video cameras. I literally record myself doing the thing. So for example, I do triathlons. I got one of these fancy bikes. I got 2 bikes, my road bike and my TT bike, and they have like computer chips and all this stuff and like all the Garmin devices. And it's actually like a pain in the butt to the maintenance of it. So I had my assistant did a video of me doing it. Here's how I do the chain. Here's how I plug the machines in. It has to be done on this cycle. And I just record myself for like 12 minutes and then message them that video. They created the SOP for the bike maintenance. They followed the bike maintenance. And then if there's any tweaks, I put it in the document, but it's got a training video and it's got a document. So I call that the camcorder method. That's the transfer side. So how do I take something in my calendar I don't want to do no longer, transfer it, and then fill? This is the part most people get wrong. Most people hire folks before they know what they're going to do with that new time. So then they feel lazy. Then they feel guilty. So they hire an assistant and all of a sudden they have 10 hours back and they watch Netflix, they chill out, they go to their friends. That's not what I want to help people build empires. Like the subtitle of my book is Build Your Empire. And for me, an empire is a life of unlimited creation you never have to retire from. Like I really want to encourage every creator in the world, every entrepreneur, every artist, get to a place where as you think to create, you have the resources to create. And the constraint is a byproduct of your creativity. And the fill part is asking yourself, well, who do I need to become? So if I'm 100K a year and I want to make $500,000, well, what are the skills you got to acquire? What are the character traits you have to acquire? And that's the fill part. And if you don't do that, you don't actually complete the loop.
Thanks for listening to this installment of The Podgram. I hope it contains something useful for you. If you enjoy these selections and are curious about the curator's own thoughts, you can check out my other podcast, Psychic Lube, where I share concise concepts meant to grease the intellectual gears and help get your creative juices flowing. Each episode is an ongoing collaborative project that welcomes listeners to expand or rebut its points by email or comment, the most interesting of which get incorporated through periodic re-recordings. As always, if you're intrigued by today's content, I encourage you to go listen to the full podcast in its original form directly from its creators so that their sponsors keep paying them to make stuff for us and nobody feels compelled to sue me for copyright infringement. Now, get off your phone and go do smart stuff. Have a productive day.